Hi, welcome to Amira Darkly, Unbridled Inquiry. Our topic today is the hardest thing. I don't know if we're talking about diamonds or climbing Mount Everest, but I guess we'll soon find out. Just to let you know that we run in 10-minute episodes, not really episodes, segments. And so if you have any questions, please post it in the comments. I've got all the comment stuff over here that I can see. And if you have any show ideas or any big questions that we could turn into a show, even little questions we could turn into a show, we're happy to do that. So just make sure you put that in the comments. If you think of something after the show and want to email us, you can email us at info@theology.edu. So we'll go ahead and get started, and let us know if you have any questions, and I'm going to set the timer.
Okay. Well, the easiest thing for human beings to do, it seems to me, is to hate one another.
Oh.
And so the hardest thing for human beings to do is to love one another. And there are problems with figuring out how to even do that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also the tendency to think, well, it has to be somebody that's deserving or somebody that I like. And of course, that doesn't quite do it either. Jesus in Matthew chapter 7, verse 12 says, "So in everything do to others what you would have them do to you. For this sums up the law and the prophets." That is, the entire Bible is summed up with the concept of loving your neighbor as yourself. But because we are screwed up human beings, we're not very good at that, even if we want to do that. So, for instance, do to others as you would have them do to you. If you're an alcoholic, or you have a friend who's an alcoholic, do you offer him a drink because you'd like a drink? Is that, how do you do that? Or somebody asks you for money, so this means you have to give them money because you'd like to have money. So, and how do you manage doing to others as you'd have them do to you? Because what you like might not be something they like.
Well, I think...
what if they don't like broccoli?
Like President Bush.
Yeah.
And then the broccoli growers sent him like truckloads of it.
Yeah, that was mean.
It's like, I'm the president. I don't have to eat broccoli if I don't want to. And they sent him truckloads of broccoli. Well, I think that the time that it's most important is when someone does something terrible or does something to you that you don't like or that is wrong. I think it's less about, well, I want money, so I'm going to give money to other people hoping I'll get it back.
Well, hoping that you'll get it back would be an error. That is,
right?
Because you do for others regardless. And see,
right, but but your premise was, if I give other people money, then I will get money because I want money.
That's not what I said.
Okay, you said, I want money, I like money, so if I give other people money...
Therefore, I should give people money when they ask for it, because since I like it, then they'll probably like it too.
Okay, I see your point.
You completely misunderstood.
But I think that, because that's not hard to do. Like, for example, this morning, I had gone through McDonald's for breakfast, and they gave me the wrong order. I had paid for it, but I had ordered the number 1 small black coffee, what I get every time. And when the girl said it to me, now that I think back on it, she did repeat the wrong order back to me. But I was like, yes, because I heard the small black coffee, and I was like, that's my order. And so when I got up to the window, she goes, you want 2 sausage McMuffins and a small black coffee. I was like, that's not what I ordered. And I picked up the receipt, and I'm like, wait, that is apparently what she wrote down that I ordered. So I said, I'll take it. It's not a big deal. So I'm sitting there thinking, okay, a sausage McMuffin is a lot for me because the sausage is really filling. And normally I just get a regular egg McMuffin. It has that little bit of Canadian bacon on it. So anyway, but I do like them because they're like super good because I like sausage. But anyway, so I had this extra sandwich. Well, I took the bag from her, and then I looked up to proceed to leave, and there was a homeless man there asking for money. So I pulled up closer to him and I said, I can't give you money, but I do have this extra sandwich. I said, they gave me the wrong order and it's 2 sandwiches and I can't eat them both. So he's like, oh, thank you. So I gave him the sandwich. things like that are pretty easy to do. Normally, I don't have extra food in the car to give to somebody. I won't give money to homeless people for reasons we've stated before, because they tend to spend it in the first place they go to. Yeah.
Based on our experience with our own mentally ill people.
And stories we've heard from other people, that you give them money and they, like you give them enough money, like say they want cigarettes and they also need to buy some groceries. And so you give them money, they go to the cigarette store and they spend all the money on cigarettes. It's like, that was not the intention of that money.
And that wasn't their intention either. It's
right.
just that because of mental illness, that's what happens.
It's like, oh, I was going to spend $20 here, but now I have 60, I'll spend all 60. So, and then they're without money.
And without food.
Right.
But they got cigarettes.
But giving them food or water is a really good thing to do because they can use that. So, and not, spend it elsewhere. Mm-hmm. But anyway, so that's pretty easy to do. Giving something to someone, some people pack a little self-care bags or whatever and carry them in their cars. So when they see a homeless person, they give them to them. I know that our church and my school collect socks for the homeless in Socktober. And that's like super easy to do. What's hard to do is to show love to someone who has been mean or unkind or you feel doesn't deserve it. And that's what it's really talking about.
Yeah, well, that's when it's hard.
Right.
Or if somebody asks you to do something and you don't really want to do it for them and you think they're using you, and so should you do it or not?
Right.
How does that work?
Right. And I think that that using thing, if you know somebody's using you and you allow it, that's fine. Mm-hmm. I've had, my children have said, but Mom, they're using you. And I'm like, yeah, and I know they are, and I'm allowing it because I'm helping them. Mm-hmm. But there comes a point where it just becomes like codependency and where they can't function without you. And so it's time to start to cut that tie.
Because one of the key things to think about in terms of loving someone is that you want to do what's best for them.
Right.
And sometimes what's best for them may not be really what they are wanting at the moment. Mm-hmm. And we've got good examples of that scripturally. That is one of the long-term problems that the ancient Israelites had from the very beginning. That is, you see it reflected in when they left Egypt. You see it in the time of the judges. You see it in the early monarchy with even David's own family. Idolatry. Mm-hmm. It's an ongoing problem. And God tries for a very long time to get them to stop worshiping other gods. And it was just very, very hard for them to figure out how to do that. Ultimately, God sent them into the Babylonian captivity, and that is what cured the Israelites of idolatry from that point on and forever.
I'm switching this up. It's too bright on my face. One half of my face looks like the light side of the moon. That's better.
Is that better?
Yeah. We have that set. We got to remember to put on that setting. I was sitting there going, I mean, it still look a little washed out on this side because that's the side that that the light is facing on mostly, but it was really bad. So I just decided to fix it while you're talking. But I was listening.
Yes, sort of. So. But yes, doing what's best for people. That is, in the book of Hebrews, God talks about that parents discipline their children, God disciplines his people. Discipline while it's happening doesn't seem pleasant. Mm-hmm. And you wonder, it's like when my oldest daughter was very, very little, and we'd put her in timeout. And she one time asked, "Don't you love me anymore?" Because in her little mind at that time, she couldn't make a connection between being put in timeout and us loving her. Mm-hmm. It didn't seem compatible. Of course, as adults, we recognize that. She would understand that now, particularly with her own little kid. That is, discipline is a necessary thing, and you do it, at least ideally, because you love them, because it's necessary for them to learn how to function as reasonable human beings and not little monsters.
Right.
But the discipline is not necessarily pleasant. And so loving others as you'd love yourself is complex.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just, I like pie, so I'll give you pie.
Although I would accept that.
Yes, but if the person is, say, on Weight Watchers or diabetic, you might not be the best thing for them.
Right.
Even though they might like it, it still may not be the most loving action.
Right.
Rabbi Hillel, about 100 years before Jesus, said the same thing, that what you don't want done for yourself, don't do to somebody else. And then he added to the concept of the golden rule, this sums up the entire Bible, go and study it. And the reason we have to study the rest of the Bible is because we have to make sense of that phrase, do to others, you'd have them do to you, because if you approach it too simplistically, you end up giving alcohol to an alcoholic because you like alcohol. And that's the opposite of a loving action in that case, even though it might feel like it. Now, that's an obvious sort of thing. But loving others is the hardest thing, both in terms of what is the best thing for them at this point sometimes, and then also there are people that you simply don't want to love because they've been mean to you. And actually the Bible focuses more on that part of the issue than it does on the issue of being careful and actually doing what's best for somebody else. Hatred is the natural human response to things. As somebody does us bad, we want to do bad back. Vengeance is always on the edge of our thinking at all times, and we're really good at it. That is, we're really good at being violent in response to people being mean to us, not necessarily appropriately vengeful, because we oftentimes will be vengeful towards people that aren't actually guilty in the first place. That is, we just assume they must be the ones that did it. Lynch mobs are guilty of this on a regular basis. But
this happened a lot with the Me Too movement, too, that just because a woman said something, he's a man, he must be guilty. It's one of the things that kind of bugged me about Girl Scouts, and I know it was for the safety of the girls, but they were super, way more cautious about dads being involved with certain activities and that. And I said, they're not guilty just because they're men. Women are just as capable of abusing children as men are. And we all had to get background checks. It's not like it was different in that respect. But it was just a really touchy issue, like if a dad wanted to come on a camp out or something. Like, basically, if a dad wanted to come camping with us, he had to be in his own tent like so many feet away from the other tents. And it was like, oh, you're a man, you have to be way over there.
Yeah.
So,
well, bigotry is a common thing regardless. That is, all members of whatever group must obviously think and act and behave exactly the same.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully...
Because we see that all the time, that every member of a given group behaves the same. That is, all white people can't dance. And that sort of thing.
Right.
It's just, this is ludicrous. That is, your gender or shape, skin color, hair color, eye color, these are incidental to you as an individual. What political party you belong to does not mean that you agree with everything that political party does.
Right.
I belong to the Planetary Society and the Mars Society. It doesn't mean that I agree with everything that Bill Nye the Science Guy or Robert Zubrin have to say about things. just because they're the presidents of the given organizations. Or I belong to the Society of Biblical Literature. It doesn't mean I embrace everything that every member in the society embraces. Obviously, we are a very diverse group.
Right. Well, I belong to the teachers union in our area, and then, there's CTA and all that on top of it. But that doesn't mean I agree with everything that they say. And actually, when I get the things from them, like who I should vote for, that makes me really question okay, do I really want to vote for this person? Especially if it tends to agree with mine. I find out why it is they're supporting them so much, because I'm very leery. And this could be just my upbringing, because my dad was really anti-union. And I think that unions have a place. But like other things, they start to exist just to keep themselves going.
Yeah, well, the bureaucratic problem is, the iron law of bureaucracy affects every organization. Jerry Pournelle is the one that I think originated that phrase to describe it. And that's the reality of any organization. Eventually, the bureaucracy, which is going to always form because you need it in order for an organization to function, eventually that bureaucracy will be more concerned with maintaining itself than it will be with performing its job as what the organization was supposed to be all about.
Yeah,
it becomes a self-perpetuating thing.
Yeah. So anyway, we kind of, up until recently, if you were a teacher, you had to be in the union, which they changed that law quite a few years ago. Not law, the rule for we really have an association. It's not technically a union, but
functions as a union,
right? But we don't have the same privileges a union has. Like, we can't strike right away. We have certain legal steps we have to go through before we can strike, which is fine with me because I don't want to strike. I need money to survive. But anyway, when I first joined. When I was first teaching, I was given the option of joining the union. You were still covered by the union, but you didn't have to join. And my student loans were so high, and we were in such tough financial straits because we had just gone through a period of time where neither of us had a job for like 6 or 8 months. And so we were just coming off of a really bad financial situation. I really couldn't afford it. And then about 2 or 3 years in, they passed a rule that everybody has to pay their fair share. So then I joined the union. Still kind of really couldn't afford it, but you make room in your budget for things that you have to pay for. So anyway, so then I was a union member, but now they have a law in California. Is it the right to work law, or I don't know what it's called. But anyway, which I don't get what right to work has to do with being a union member or not, because you still have the right to work regardless. So I don't get that. But anyway, so
it's marketing.
Yeah. So anyway, now you can make the choice whether to be a union member or not, but you're still covered. It goes back to the way it used to be. And when we first voted on it, I voted that I didn't think that beginning teachers, at least until you were, till you had tenure, should be required to join the union. And I still feel that way, because they don't have union protection anyway until they're tenured. So why should they have to pay for it? Plus, they usually have really high student loans. They're young. They're just starting families.
They're on the lowest level.
They're at the lowest level of
anyway.
the pay scale and all that. Yeah. Why make them be union members? And I think that once a teacher is tenured, that would be say, okay, now you're tenured, now you join the union, because now you have the full protection of the union. I mean, when I work with brand new teachers, I tell them, you can't say anything because you don't have union protection. Just keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, and keep teaching. So, but I mean, it's not that bad where you have to keep your head down. But if they have, they can't, if our grade level has an issue, we leave the new teacher out of it, and we deal with it as tenured teachers because we have a little bit more protection, so we can speak up more. So,
right.
But anyway, but that's totally off topic. That was a big wabbit.
Yep, it was, but rabbit trails can be interesting. It's like when you're teaching a class, you wander all over the place, and that's just the way it goes.
Yep.
It's best that way, actually, I think. But anyway, to get back to the topic of love, it is people will sing about it. All we need now is love. And you have political parties talking about, we need to love, and love drives out hate and all of that. And yet you listen to political parties and all you hear is hate. They'll mouth the words, but so far as in practice, it's not there. As they are beating you to a pulp, they will be talking warm fuzzies.
Same thing with the news, which is really just the narrative. They are like, we just need to love other people. Wow, those people over there hate. It's like, well, that song, What the World Needs Now is Love, Sweet Love. That song has always bugged me because you really cannot love people outside of Jesus. I mean, people that you really don't like.
And we're not very good at it.
We're not even good at it then. But really, to do it without Jesus is virtually impossible.
Yeah. I mean, one of my favorite passages is in Matthew. It's chapter 5, I think.
We're on our third segment now. We just started it. We don't have any comments or questions yet. So feel free to chime in. Even if you think your thing isn't on topic, that's fine.
But last paragraph of Matthew chapter 5, starting at verse 43, you have heard that it was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be children of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your own people, what are you doing more than others? Do not even pagans do that? Be perfect, therefore, as your heavenly Father is perfect. So what we're asked to do is something that's virtually impossible. Like I said, it's the hardest thing. That is, we have no trouble being kind and seeking what's best for the people that we like, for the people that agree with us, for the people that think like us, for the people that do things that we approve of. We have virtually no ability to be kind to people that are mean to us, to be kind to people that actively hate us. That is, we will likely respond to hate with hate. And what God has asked us to do is the exact opposite of that, what is entirely unnatural for a human being to do. It's entirely unnatural for any biological organism. That is, you look at dogs or cats or any animal that's social, they are nice to those that are nice to them, and they are violent towards those that are not.
Except for Oreo. He's just mean to everybody. We were at the park today because the tires are getting rotated on the car, and it's close to the main park in town. So we walked over there, and there were two big dogs, and the big dogs were like, shut up, yappy little dog. But he was just barking and having a cow. And then we walked past another little dog who was off leash, hanging out with his owner, just kind of running along and frolicking in the grass. And Oreo, he's in his stroller because it works like a crate for him, keeps him calmer because he has a lot of anxiety. But he's like standing up in his stroller, and he's like, and he's just a little tiny 9-pound dog. He doesn't look threatening. It's actually, he's deceiving because he's super cute, but he is. That's why his Instagram name is Oreo Sweet and Snappy, because he is very sweet, but he also snaps. And he even snaps at him. Do you notice how I was holding him last night when he came to bed? So I fell asleep with my hand on Oreo. My arm was between his legs, and I had my hand on his chest, so if he moved towards Robin, I could hold him. And then I had the squirt bottle facing him in my hand. I woke up later in the night, like around 2 a.m, because my hand was stiff, and I realized, I'm like, what is in my hand? It was still the squirt bottle. So I had him secured to my chest, and I had the squirt bottle, although the squirt bottle had fallen over by then. But so I don't recommend teaching people to love by squirting them in the face, but it works for dogs. That would be funny, though.
Yes, it
If
would.
that was like something in the Bible that, like, if someone treats you badly, squirt them in the face with water. That'd be like, psst.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that God says is, vengeance is mine, I will repay. That is...
God will squirt them in the face with water.
Yeah, as human beings, we're not really supposed to do that because we're not good at it, in the sense that we will squirt when it's not deserved, just because we're annoyed, and so squirt, squirt, squirt.
Or it's funny.
Or it's funny, or whatever. So, yeah, it's very easy for us to hate. Hatred is easy. Love is hard. And we're not good at it.
Well, it's our default setting since the fall.
Yes.
So you set default settings on your phone or on your computer because that's how you want your phone or your computer to behave. And our default settings were reset at the fall to behave in this vengeful, hateful way.
Yeah, and it's just very natural for us to do that. It's the easiest thing for us to do. We do it automatically without thinking. That is, we have to think in order to love. Mm-hmm. We have to stop and reverse direction in order to love. It is not something we do naturally, except for people that we like. Then it's easy. Mm-hmm. But of course, it's very easy then to become completely enraged at somebody we love because they've done something to annoy us. And so, your significant other, doesn't put something away or leaves a mess, suddenly they become the enemy, and you hate them.
Why are you looking at me? I don't leave messes around the house.
No, of course you don't.
Most women complain because their husbands leave things around the house. My husband complains because his wife leaves things around the house.
Yeah, you're not a neatnik.
No, I'm not.
And I am. So I like things orderly and clean and well managed, and she doesn't care.
Yeah. I like things clean. I just don't want to be the one to have to do it. So,
yeah.
Because I have other things I'd rather do.
Yeah. So we would prefer to be free to hate. And you see that reflected in how people respond to Jesus. That is, the whole story of the Good Samaritan grows out of a religious leader asking Jesus, after he tells them you need to love your neighbor as yourself, and he asks, well, who is my neighbor? Mm-hmm. And the comment in the passage is he wanted to justify himself. That is, he wanted to reassure himself that his neighbor was a relatively narrow swath of humanity. Mm-hmm. And the swath of humanity he was thinking of were the people that he was nice to. Mm-hmm. Because they agreed with him and he agreed with them, and they were nice people.
They were probably in his social strata too.
Right. And he was slightly worried by what Jesus had said. And of course, after he told the story of the Good Samaritan, then he knew that he was screwed. Because nobody can live up to that.
Right.
None of us manage it. We fall constantly. But then that's why we need Jesus in the first place, is because we're incapable of leading a Christian life. We're not capable, you have the stupid bands that people would wear on their wrists, what would Jesus do? Well, a lot of good that does you, because being like Jesus is the hardest thing in the world. Mm-hmm. We're not likely to do that most of the time. Once in a while, we'll pull it off. Once in a while, we'll have enough going on upstairs to realize, okay, what I want to do here is not the right thing to do. I've got to do this thing that's completely unnatural and that I don't want to do. And that's the right thing. But we're just no good at it. As Christians, the Bible tells us that we have been filled with the Holy Spirit. And that's a useful thing, and it says, we have the God essentially living inside of us, that He's written His laws in our heart. It has some impact, but not as much as we'd like. That is, it does not fully change our fundamental default settings. They're still there.
Well, it's kind of
a kludge.
It's a software patch.
It's a patch.
Like it helps us to function better.
Yeah.
But we're not perfect.
No,
it
the hardware needs to be replaced. And we need a full rewrite of the software.
Yeah. Which we get when we go to heaven. But,
yeah, things are really messed up.
So we have a comment from Ryan. He says, standing your ground when disrespected is necessary, at least to some degree. I've never felt at ease with the meek figure that just takes it, turns the other cheek time and time again. Responding in a godly, loving way that also demands respect is the hard part for me. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about meekness.
Yes, what does that mean?
Yeah, because Jesus was meek, but it's not the tradition. It's not how you think of when you think of meekness, you think of the 98-pound weakling.
Right.
And
meekness is the 300-pound linebacker that decides not to smash your face.
Right. So so this was a really good picture that one of our previous pastors, I don't remember who said it, but is having like one of those big trucks that works in the dirt and has one of those clampy things. I don't know the proper name, but anyway, but having the power to crush a car or bite into a car, but holds an egg in there. That's meekness.
Right.
Knowing your power and strength and not using it.
Right.
That is meekness. So,
yes, God could snap his fingers like, what's his name? Thanos, and wipe out the entire human race. He chooses not to.
Right. So I think that meekness gets confused with weakness. And if you are truly a person of strength, it's kind of like what I said with the being used part. You choose it. And
you decide that it's necessary to be used because in this particular case, it is actually what's best for that individual.
Right. But then there comes a point where it's no longer good for them, and then you have to decide, okay, now how am I going to handle this situation? And sometimes it means cutting that person off as far as whatever you were doing for them.
Think in terms of Jesus, that phrase again, what would Jesus do? Well, sometimes Jesus comes out with a whip and starts turning tables over. That is, there are points where that is the proper response. You see it with God and how he deals with human beings. He is very slow to bring judgment on people, but you do see bad things happening to people because it was necessary. That is, discipline is an aspect of love. That is, we tend to think of love as only being this positive, warm, fuzzy feeling. Sometimes love is very harsh and unpleasant. Part of that depends on your relationship and your perspective to things. That is, if you are a police officer rescuing hostages, the hostages will view you in a positive way and feel that your actions toward them are loving. The kidnappers that are being shot by the police officers may have a different feeling about what's going on. but you have the one action that's being done. And depending on whether you're the hostage or the hostage taker, how you feel about that is going to be different.
Right. I also want to talk about the concept of demanding respect. Respect is really earned. Some people are, should I say, entitled to respect because of their position.
Well, it's like in the military, you salute the uniform, not necessarily the person that's wearing
exactly.
it.
So you, like with the office of president, I respect the person who's there because they managed to win the election, and that's the person that God has put in place there. It doesn't mean I agree with everything that person does. It doesn't mean I'm even part of their political party, but I respect the office, therefore the person that's in that office. As far as yourself, you have to earn respect. You can't demand it. I think that, and you might have just said it in a way that, like you didn't intend to mean demanding respect, but I would argue that respect is earned. I know with children, several years ago, we went through this thing at school with, well, he disrespected me, and it's like, well, first of all, disrespect is not a verb, but I guess it is now. But anyway, but I would say to the child, well, what did you do to earn his respect? Well, he said mean things to me, so I said mean things back. Well, that's not a very respectful thing to do. You earn people's respect by the way that you act and the way that you treat people, and that respect builds over time. When I was a brand new teacher, parents didn't trust me, they didn't know who I was, and so now there's a lot I can say, a lot that I can do, that if I had said it or done it when I was a beginning teacher,
it not over too well.
No. And it's interesting because on our grade level, there's two of us have been there a long time. I've been there the longest. And one has been in the district a long time, but she's new to our school, and the other one's a brand new teacher. So the two that are new to our school are still navigating that, well, people don't really know me, they don't really trust me yet, and they don't have that same respect. I mean, they respect them as teachers, but as far as like things that they might say or suggestions they might make to parents on how to parent, that respect isn't there yet. But whereas the teacher and I that have been there a long time, there's a lot of things that we can say to parents that parents be like, oh, okay. And it's also interesting, too, that you earn that from parents once you have children of your own. Even though you have been teaching a long time, if you don't have children, they have a really hard time accepting that parenting advice. So, there's a certain amount of respect that should come with the job of being a teacher. But you have to also live up to that as well. You can't just be a jerk and be like, well, you have to respect me because I'm the teacher, So to a certain degree, there's a demanding respect. Like my students are not allowed to call me by my first name. They'll ask me, what's your first name? I say Mrs. And they say, what's your husband's first name? I say Mr. So, but they know my first name because it shows up on stuff like on Google Classroom and that. But I correct them. If they try to use my first name, I turn around like that and I say, I am Mrs. Nettlehurst. I am your teacher. You may not call me by my first name. And but then when I had Girl Scouts, now my Girl Scouts also went to my school. So for Girl Scouts, they would call me by my first name. But it was a different level of respect that I required of them. And it was interesting, we also had that here at church. A couple that came to our church, they insisted that their child call me Mrs. Nettlehurst. I said, I'm Mrs. Nettlehurst at work. Here I'm Ruth because I want a different relationship with the children here. I want to be more like, have more of a closer relationship with, have a closer relationship. I realize I was kind of doubled there. Yeah. I wanted to have a closer relationship with the children here at church. I want to have a closer relationship with my Girl Scouts. But at school, you want that. See, with that respect comes some separation too. So, like when you respect somebody like the president, you can't just go up to him and say like, "Hey, dude," and shake his hand and call him by his first name, and be like, "Hey, let's sit back and take suck down a couple beers." That's just not a thing.
You haven't earned that relationship with
Yeah,
them.
and that's more a relationship thing. So, anyway, so respect is, it really ebbs and flows depending on the relationship you have with the person and your standing in relationship to that other person. Like a student would show me respect and their parent, but I return that respect to the kid and to the parent too. I try to treat my kids really respectfully. Like I don't call them out in front of their friends unless it's something has to be dealt with right then. Then I'll mention it to them. I'll say, stay after class so we can talk. But
Right.
try to do it in private.
Well, Paul talks to that issue in Ephesians in chapter 5, verse 21. It begins by saying, submit yourselves one to another. And when people read the rest of the passage, they make a distinction between what Paul uses both the word submit and then he uses the word love. And really, Paul is using those two terms interchangeably because submission is something that you do out of love. And if you love someone, then you submit. And you have this statement meant that husbands love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up to make her holy, cleansing her by washing with water through the word, present her blameless, and so on. That is, Jesus died for us. That is, he submitted to death. In Philippians chapter 2, he talks about how he made himself nothing, becoming one of us. And then, of course, in John chapter 13, you have the whole washing of feet incident. And he's teaching them something with that, too. I am your teacher, I am God, but here I am washing your feet. Go and do likewise. That is, again, this concept of the mutual submission of love, what is entailed by that. And so you wonder, well, how is that then compatible with respect? Well, because by showing submission to somebody else, you are respecting them. Them showing submission to you, they're respecting you, but that's also what love is. That is, like I said, love is the hardest thing in the world. We don't do it very well. We're not good at it. And even with people we like, we're not very good at it because we can turn it off like that.
Right.
That is, this is why people, they fall in love, they get married, and then, 5 years later they're divorced and hate each other. That doesn't seem like that should even be possible, and yet as human beings, we're remarkably good at it. We are remarkably bad at actually loving someone. How many people have friends for their entire lifetime? How many people end up remaining married for 40 years?
We're almost there.
We're almost there. We're 3 years out from that. But that's something that's unusual. People take note of that because it doesn't happen that frequently.
When I tell people how long we've been married, they go, wow.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's not that hard. You just keep walking in the same house every day.
But yeah, human beings are really bad at loving. It's hard for us. And we get all bent out of shape very easily. We are easily offended. And if we get offended, then we take it out on the thing that has offended us. That is, if we stub our toe, we will cuss at the chair that stubbed our toe. It's an inanimate object, doesn't matter, we're going to damn it to hell. As if it cares.
That's right.
No, we're really bad at it. And yet that is the core of the Bible. That's what it's all about. And because we're so bad at that, this is why we're attracted to things like legalism. Because that's easy. Here's this list of things. Okay, if I do this, this, and this, and this, then God is happy with me. If I do these things and don't do these other things, then that means that I'm a good person. And no, it doesn't. That's not the point. That is, the point of the Bible is not all the rules and regulations. The rules and regulations are simply examples of what love is. It's not, you do these things in order to earn brownie points.
And the way you really love people is by developing a relationship with them and getting to know them. Okay, so I do these launch videos every day with my class, and one of the ones that we do, we watch a lot of Kid President. He was a kid who declared himself kid president during the Obama administration. He's old enough. He started out when he was pretty little, but he's old enough now. He kind of stepped away from that. But really good stuff. And he did like pep talks and things like that. And anyway, and some of it's just silly. But anyway, one of the things he said in one of the videos we watched this week, and it's interesting because I've been doing these videos now for a few years, and I never really heard it before. But he said, if you can't think of something nice to say, you're not thinking hard enough. And that's really true. If you can't think of something nice to say about someone, you're not thinking hard enough. And if you
and you don't know them well enough,
right?
perhaps.
And I would take it a step farther, that you need to get to know them. Like, why is that person a jerk? You see the bitter old people, get off my lawn.
What made them that way?
Right? Why are they like that?
Well, think about take a Disney movie or a Pixar movie, Up. And you look at that guy at the beginning, you see what his life was, then you see how grumpy he is at the point when that little Boy Scout shows up. What preceded all that is why he's that way initially with that Boy Scout.
Right.
But if you don't know all that, he's just a grumpy, nasty old man. Why is he this way?
Right.
Who cares? He's a jerk.
Yeah. What would be a really good meme to do with the bundled up Bernie picture is do the Up thing with have him in his chair with the balloons. Somebody needs to make that.
Somebody may have.
I'll have to see.
Have to look.
My daughter asked today, what's up with all these memes about Bernie Sanders? And it was a good curmudgeonly, Ryan said episode idea. You mean for the respect one? We could do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tony asked, scratch that there. Okay, so Tony said to me, she's like, what's up with all the Bernie memes? And I said, well, it kind of fits into that whole old curmudgeon kind of thing, because he looks like really curmudgeonly, all bundled up.
He's just cold.
Right. And so people put him in all these different, and it's hysterical. I just love seeing, well, I guess now Snapchat has a bundled up Bernie filter, so you can put him in places like in your house. So I'm going to try that later. So I didn't have time before.
It doesn't take long for those things to take
No,
off.
it doesn't. Well, and I've been watching this show, Mr. Mayor, which is really funny. It's with Ted Danson. It's on NBC. It's kind of similar to Community and Parks and Recreation, which I didn't enjoy those shows because I thought they were just kind of dumb. But it's sort of like The Office a little bit, maybe. But anyway, but it's very, very funny. And the one thing they kept telling him is, don't be a meme. He's like this bumbling mayor. He's a rich guy who decided to become mayor after he...
Of Los Angeles.
Yeah, the mayor of Los Angeles, after he kind of like retired and stuff. He was kind of not doing anything, and he wanted to show his daughter, leadership skills and stuff. And so
a lot of making fun of Southern California.
Yes, lots of it. But they just said, whatever you do, don't be a meme. And so Bernie broke that
He became a meme. And
Yes.
of course, you can't predict.
Yes.
That's the problem. So,
well, there's things you can do, like not eating on camera. That was one of their things. Don't eat. And he did.
He did. And so he became a meme.
He rolls up all of his food and eats it. So.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. But, when you look at the fruit of the Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit, things like that, what that means is that we, through the Holy Spirit, have least the ability to be like Jesus. Because what you have is the gifts of the Spirit. That's what Jesus was like. The gifts of the Spirit, that was what Jesus was like. The church is the body of Christ. That is, we are here in the vicar of Christ is the church. That is what takes the place of Christ in the world. But we're not that good at it. Jesus is much better at being Jesus than what we are.
Yeah.
But that's what we're called to. That is, collectively, we potentially can be like Jesus.
And the fruits of the Spirit, that one that always gets people is that patience one. And that's the one that plays into this really well. Because being patient with people is really hard. And that's where that respect comes from. When you're patient with people. Like one of the things that with this whole distance, our school district is still distance. We've been distance all year so far. We may take it all the way till June. It just kind of depends on what happens with the new administration and what Governor Newsom decides to do. But anyway, right now we're distance till the end of February, but they're negotiating now to keep it that way till the end of the year. But anyway, with the distance learning, it's been a real challenge. And I've been telling parents, you are going to be amazed at what you see from your child after this, because I have 30 kids. I have 20 that are really, really trying to do their best and getting through this. I have 10 that, the parents are like overwhelmed and the kids are like, well, mom's not paying attention. I'm going to watch TV and keep my camera off so that the teacher doesn't know much. I always catch them though. I don't know why they keep doing it. I keep catching them. He's like, well, my cousin's here watching TV. I said, tell your cousin to go to another room. You're in school. But anyway, so, but the thing that I keep hearing from parents, and it's the parents who were the most stressed out at the beginning of the year, they say, you're just so patient. And I'm like, well, it doesn't do me any good to get upset. So I just sit there and I wait, and especially we probably spent the first 3 weeks of school just figuring out the different platforms. And just going through with them step by step. Okay, here's how you get on this and all that. Now I can just kind of assign stuff and the kids already know what to do because they've been doing it now for a while. But one mom goes, how are you so patient? I go, trust me, on the inside I'm screaming. But on the outside I'm cool as a cucumber because it doesn't do any good to get upset. And that's the thing, is that whole idea of the way responding to people in a loving way. It's just, you take a deep breath, you scream on the inside, but on the outside you just look cool as a cucumber. And when you show that kind of patience with other people, what I'm noticing is the kids are giving it back to me. Like we do, my class is split in half. So I have a morning session and an afternoon session. And like how teachers are doing 30 kids on a meeting at a time, I don't know how they're doing it, because I have 16 in one session and 14 in the other, and the 16 is much harder, even though it only has 2 extra kids. But anyway,
maybe it's the quality of the kids.
Well, to a certain degree, it's the kids that are in it, because that's always a factor. But it's just having more of them. I think if it was split, it was really inequitable. But now I've been able to balance it out. I moved a couple kids around because the parents needed them to switch, and it just worked out that way. But anyway, we have this thing called weekly wrap up, where for 15 minutes on Friday at the end of the day, everybody's invited to join this little short meeting. They don't have to come, and we do something fun. Like this Friday, we're going to do a scavenger hunt. This last Friday, we did drag and brag, where you drag your Christmas present in front of the camera and show us your Christmas presents that you got. And which it was supposed to be the previous Friday, but I had forgotten to schedule it in the little meeting thing. So I scheduled it that morning, and I had accidentally scheduled it for 2:40 a.m. So I changed that, but I didn't double check the date, and the date was for the next Friday. So by the time I noticed it, it was too late to set it up because I've put their emails in and everything. So I just sent out a message to the parents saying, Drag and Brag got postponed until next week. I messed up on the meeting thing. Nobody complained because they know things happen, and especially in this current situation. And because I've been so patient with them, and the kids know I've been really patient with them, they're being patient with me. So when I mess up, it's not that big of a deal. In face-to-face school, I'm really careful to not mess things up because I hold myself to a super high standard so that the parents know that I'm like super reliable. I'll do what I say I'm going to do and things like that, because those things are important for me in myself. And but I've had to let some of that go because things are going to go wrong. There's so much technology. I mean, even me, I get a little, like, there are things they throw at me like, oh, you can do this. I'm like, yeah, no, my cup is pretty full. And so there's stuff I just don't do. Like, they want to do like these little activities and stuff on the computer. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. Oh, the city had this See and Be Seen campaign, and they wanted the kids to participate in the art contest. I'm like, I don't have time to promote this. I have so much else going on. So I didn't even bother promoting it. And I think a lot of teachers didn't because we're just pretty full up. But because I've shown so much patience with the children and with the parents, and it's funny when those parents would come, because I tell the kids, I'd be like, okay, it's time to go get your adult. And because when we had to sign into something because the adults can help the kids, and I would see parents come in and be like, oh my gosh. I had one mom that because they're not looking at me, like the kids are looking at me when I'm teaching, but the parents are looking at whatever's on the screen. So it's this different kind of a gaze, and I see parents doing this and frowning and like, oh, like this, and they don't realize that I'm seeing them, and just the stress and anxiety on their faces. And I just tell them, it's okay, take a deep breath, I'll wait. And then they kind of relax a little bit. But every time, and there was a time where I had a kid go get their adult. I said, reassure your mom that this is not going to be a big deal. You just need her right now. But they're so thankful now that they're not being summoned to the computer every 5 minutes. But it's been hard, but it's taught me a lot about patience. It's taught me a lot. It's taught the kids a lot too about just, being patient with each other, and it's okay, And I think I've gotten a lot. I think my students have fared better than teachers who are stressed out all the time. So, and a lot of it has to do with our principal though too. He's like, hey, if you don't get through the lesson because of technology, it's okay. And so that's my attitude. It's like, and a kid logs off, I just tell the adult, Joey's not responding to me, or Joey disappeared, can you check on him? And, then it's out of my hands after that. I just keep teaching.
Yeah, the discipline has shifted.
Yes, which is nice, because I did not sign up for this job to be a prison warden. I like to teach, and I like it when kids learn stuff. And you get so distracted by the behavior problems that it's just nice to just teach. That's what I've really enjoyed this year. It's like I've taken this long soak in just the activity of teaching. It's been nice. So,
okay. Well,
anyway.
Are
we at time?
Oh,
we are. Okay, well, I'm glad we had some interaction. I hope it was beneficial for you guys.
Yep.
We will be back because we're here every Saturday at 4, except for the Saturdays that we're not.
So we intend to be here next Saturday.
So what's our...
good news, bad news.
Oh, good news, bad news. Okay, so... I bet I know what the good news is. I wonder if the bad news is bears. So anyway, join us next Saturday and invite friends to listen in. If you're enjoying yourself, they may too. And then...
and if you happen to miss an episode, it's still there, either on the Facebook page or on the YouTube channel.
Yep.
So past episodes are always there.
Yep. And we've talked about love before. I think the previous title was the one verse. The one verse, yeah.
Well, I'm going to, since love is the core of the Bible, it's going to tend to come up a lot.
Yeah.
It's kind of the nature of
look back at our old episodes and see if there's anything there that you enjoy as well. And, invite people to join the Facebook page. Even if they can't be here for it, they can listen to the episodes later. And we do get...
Or the YouTube channel. You can subscribe to that. And so you'll get notified whenever a new episode shows up, which is usually every Saturday.
Right. And
the quality of the YouTube channel is higher than the Facebook page.
Because of what they'll allow us to do.
Well, Facebook only allows up to 720p, the quality of the video. YouTube, we could do up to 4K. We're doing 1080p.
We need new cameras if we're going to do, well, this is our webcam, but if we're going to do 4K,
If we need to do
cameras.
4K, then we'd have to upgrade the cameras.
Right, which is not in
So
budget
right
at the
now we're
moment.
stuck at high definition, which is an improvement over what we were doing up until a few weeks ago when we were barely doing standard definition.
Right. So, anyway, so hopefully you'll join us next Saturday. Invite your friends. We also, if you don't have a church to worship at, or if you're in a different time zone and you want to go to a second service, we do live stream our services both on YouTube and on Facebook. Quartz Hill Community Church is the name of the channel and the Facebook page. And you can catch Robin's sermons every Sunday. And we do live stream the whole entire service, so here's some good praise music and things like that. So anyway, that's at 11 a.m. Pacific time. You're welcome to join us, and we'll see you guys next Saturday. Thanks for showing up today.
Yep. Bye.
We'll see ya. Bye. I should just say that the extra light on my face is from this lamp over here. Steve said, good show.